They thought it was all a game. Every word, every scheme, every twisted move, just another piece on their board. They built their castles with lies. They crowned themselves kings with stolen crowns. And the rules, they bent them, broke them, changed them whenever it suited their desires. But now the pieces are scattered. The board is flipped. The game they thought they controlled has come to an end. And yet, while they stand in the wreckage of their own making, gasping for one last shred of control, you stand taller than ever, because their games are over. But you're just getting started. They played their part well. Oh, they smiled, didn't they? Whispered their plans behind closed doors, set traps and waited, grinning, convinced they'd watch you fall. They called you a pawn, just another piece to be sacrificed. But pawns are dangerous when they reach the other side of the board. And now the game they started is no longer theirs to play. You see, they mistook patience for weakness. Every time you held your tongue, every time you chose to observe instead of lash out, they thought they were winning. But you were watching. Every lie, every betrayal, every knife they drove into your back, you memorized it all. And now, as they scramble to gather what's left of their crumbling empire, they realize far too late that the only one still playing is you, because they never saw it coming. They thought the rules would protect them, that as long as they played dirty, as long as they whispered the right words into the right ears, they would stay on top. But rules are nothing when the players refuse to follow them. And you're done playing by their rules. No more pretending. No more shrinking. No more allowing them to decide who wins and who loses. That power belongs to you now. They wanted to be the architects of your downfall. They wanted to see you broken. But what they didn't account for was what would rise from the rubble. They thought taking your power would make you weak. They thought casting you aside would silence you. But they only gave you space to grow. They underestimated the force that comes from surviving what was meant to destroy you. And now the echoes of their laughter are gone. The applause they once craved has fallen silent, because the crowd has turned, and every eye is now on you. They called it a game, but it was never that simple. Games have endings. Games are forgotten. But what you've become, that cannot be undone. You are not their opponent. You are the consequence. Every lie they spun now wraps tightly around them. Every trick they played has turned back on them. They wanted control, but control was never theirs to keep. You can see it now. The desperation, the fear behind their smiles. They are counting the pieces, searching for a strategy, a way out, but the board is empty. The king has fallen. The queen is shattered. And yet, there you stand, unmoved. They thought victory was theirs, but they never considered what happens when the pieces they discarded decide to rise, because you are no longer a piece. You are the one holding the board, and they will learn far too late that the most dangerous player is the one who has nothing left to lose. They cannot stop what is coming. Every move they once made, every step they once controlled, it means nothing now. You are not the pawn. You are not the one waiting for permission to strike. You are the force they cannot contain. The storm they thought would never rise, and while they tremble, hoping for one last roll of the dice, you simply smile, because they never realized that the game was never about winning or losing. The game was about survival. And now, with the pieces at your feet, you are free. They may have thought it was over, but you are just getting started. They're scrambling now. The smug smiles are gone. The confidence they wore like armor has shattered. They tried to keep the illusion alive, pretending they were still in control. But the truth is written across their faces. Fear, panic, desperation. The board they built is no longer theirs to command. Every carefully placed piece has crumbled. Every twisted scheme has unraveled. And now they stand in the ruins of their own making, clutching at what little remains. But no matter how tightly they cling, it slips through their fingers like dust. You see, their greatest mistake wasn't underestimating you. It was believing that the game would always be theirs to control. They spent their days playing you like a piece, but they never considered what would happen if the piece refused to move. They mistook obedience for weakness. They thought silence meant surrender. But you were never powerless. You were waiting, watching, learning. And now the waiting is over. They can feel it, the shift in the air, the weight of the choices they made, every lie they spun, every betrayal they justified. It all led them here, to the moment they can no longer undo. They played without fear, believing the consequences would never come. But consequences don't disappear. They wait, they linger. And now they have arrived. You hold the strings now. Every step you take sends a tremor through the world. They thought they owned. They speak your name in hushed whispers, hoping that ignoring the truth will make it vanish. But it's too late. The truth is not something they can silence. Not anymore. Because you are no longer a pawn on their board. You are the force that shattered it. They wanted power. They wanted control. They wanted to stand above the rest, believing that if they played their games well enough, they could stay untouchable. But the very power they chased is what destroyed them. Power built on lies is no power at all. It rots from the inside, and as the walls they built collapse around them, they are left with nothing but the weight of their own greed. And you stand unbroken. They spent so long thinking that victory was theirs to claim, that as long as they stayed one step ahead, no one could stop them. But they never considered the other side of the game. They never imagined what it would feel like when the tables turned, when the one they underestimated stood tall while they crumbled. And that is why they fear you. Not because you seek revenge. No, that would be far too simple. They fear you because you no longer play their game. You don't seek to prove them wrong. You don't crave their validation. The power they spent their lives chasing, it means nothing to you, and that terrifies them. Because now they are powerless, and there is nothing they can take from you. But the best part, you haven't even begun. They thought the story ended when their schemes fell apart. They believed your rise was simply a response to their downfall. But they were wrong. The world they tried to keep you from, it is yours now. Every door they slammed in your face is wide open. Every road they blocked has cleared. And while they stand in the shadows of their own destruction, you walk forward without them. There is no throne you seek to claim, no crown you wish to wear. Power isn't something you need to chase. It's something you carry within you. They fought so hard to keep you beneath them. But what they never understood is that you were never beneath them. You were simply waiting for the moment they fell. And now that moment has come. They will watch as you rise, not as the product of their defeat, but as the force they could never break. You are not defined by their failures. You are not bound by the ashes they left behind. You move forward not because of them, but in spite of them. Their games are over. The pieces are scattered. The board is nothing but splinters beneath your feet. And still they watch, hoping, praying, desperate for one last chance to regain control. But the game no longer belongs to them. You are the storm they tried to outrun, the reckoning they never saw coming. And now you are just getting started.